I wish I was just dead. I'm having suicidal thoughts, Pastor. Maybe some of you have had those moments in your life where you come to the place of going, this is so bad. The best thing that could happen is if I just died. I was, I think, 17 or 18 years old, and I spent about 2.5 hours standing by the side of the road by a school bus that had been parked out in front of the road that my parents live on, Babcock Boulevard. And it had broken down. It was parked there. It was empty and so forth. And I stood in front of it so no one could see me in the cars coming down. And I tried to work up the courage to step in front of a car. Because I had come to that place of, this is the best thing that can happen in my life. This is the best. It's the end. And it got to the place that after 2 hours of trying, but I could not physically make myself step in front of the car, that I actually collapsed into I don't know what it was, some kind of coma. I actually collapsed on the street and nearly got run over by a car, but the car stopped and others did, and they took me to the hospital and tried to figure out what was going on and so forth. I know that feeling of desperation. And perhaps you do too, or perhaps you know someone who has come to that place. This is where Job was. This is where Job was. And in verses 20 through 26, the third thing he says from this chapter is, why do suffering people continue to live? Why does God let people who are suffering so hard continue to live? He takes somebody that's seemingly healthy and out running like they do every day, 5 miles a day, and boom, they fall over with a heart attack. But this person who is suffering, they live for years and years. Why is that? And that's what he says, verse 20. Why is light given to him who is in misery, and life to the bitter of soul, who long for death, but it does not come, and search for it more than hidden treasures? Who rejoice exceedingly and are glad when they can find the grave. Why is light given to a man whose way is hidden, and whom God has hedged in? For my sighing comes before I eat, and my groanings pour out like water. For the thing I greatly feared has come upon me, and what I dreaded has happened to me. I'm not at ease, nor am I quiet. I have no rest, for trouble comes. This is Job's cry after sitting for 7 days with his friends who have come to comfort him. And not only are they quiet, he is quiet. He can't even express how he's feeling until finally on the 7th, after 7 days, he says this. I don't know why I was ever born. I wish I was dead. Why does God let people suffer and go on in it? I have to take a brief excursus right here, because there's a verse of Scripture here, verse 25, that has been taken by stupid people and used to say, aha, you got to have a good confession, brother. You've got to say positive things. You cannot express the things that you fear because it'll happen to you just like Job. Job said, the thing I feared has come upon me, and the reason it did is because he was in fear. No, it isn't. Read chapter 1 and 2. It tells you right there in 2 chapters why this came upon Job, and it had nothing to do that he was full of fear. That's a lie. It's straight from the pit. And anybody online, call me, email me, I'll talk to you. Really, it makes me so mad because people get wrapped up in this. And so they start believing they have to I have to be positive, and I have to say good things, and I have to say, how are you feeling? And I'm sniffling, and I'm coughing, and I can barely talk. And I feel great. Because if I say, well, I have a cold, whoa, then that cold will come upon you. There are people who believe that and are wrapped up in that. And it's a lie straight from hell. Straight from hell. It was not because Job feared this. But I got to tell you, as a father, the last thing in the world I want to face is what my in-laws faced. The death of one of their children. Job faced the death of all of his children. can't imagine. But it wasn't because he feared it. He's talking about how heavy this burden is upon him. And so now we come to the place where his 7 friends make their first, or his 3 friends, after 7 days, make their first mistake. They opened their mouth. They opened their mouth with counsel without comfort. They came to have a theological discussion. They listened to this man who is in pain beyond their comprehension and listened to what he had to say, and they analyzed it theologically and started dealing with him on a theological basis. And we say, oh gosh, what stupid people. I would never do that. Don't say that. Because whether you would do it as openly as these guys did, it's something when you come to the place where God uses you to comfort someone who is suffering. If God calls upon you to go to Haiti and look into the eyes of someone who's lost a child, lost a parent, lost a friend, lost everything that they have. The things that these guys do and the things that go through their head are the very things that go through any human being, and especially believers in the Lord. It happens. The thing is, don't let it come out of your mouth. And deal with it in your heart to understand the truth of what we are called to do. When Jason was in Beslan, the byline or name of the ministry, the heading of each one of his newsletters was comfort those who are mourning. And that's what he did for 2 years, year and a half. Let's just go and be with people. Visit them. Have dinner with them. Share with them. Not go and set them right on what's theologically correct on why God let this happen. I guarantee you he doesn't know. Neither do I. Neither does anyone. And by studying Job, we're not going to come to the end of the book and go, aha, this is why God allows suffering. We're not going to find that. What we will find is that God does allow suffering of righteous people, even though they are righteous and stay righteous all the way through. And those who come with great theological counsel and without the comfort that God comforts us with. You don't want to be there. Why don't you want to be there? Well, you don't have to turn there, but sometimes it's good to read the end of the book to understand the beginning. And in the last chapter, listen to what God says to Job and his comforters. This is from chapter 42, verse 7. It says, "And so it was after the Lord had spoken these words to Job, that the Lord said to Eliphaz the Temanite, My wrath is aroused against you and your 2 friends. Listen to this. For you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has." All through this book, we need to remember that. These guys didn't speak correctly about God. What they say is 95% correct in a lot of places. But that 5% makes a huge difference. A huge difference. So now as we go through the book of Job, as we went through that chapter, you saw there's a lot of real poetic language here and a repetition and the parallelism. And I really encourage you to read in detail, verse by verse, the sections that we go over. But I'm not going to read every verse by verse going through here because we'll be in Job until next year at that rate. And what we want to get to is, what's at the heart of it? Why did God want us to know this? The poetry is beautiful, and read it, and know it, and understand it, and dig into it.